everyone. This is Alpha Sobani, and today we are on chapter number 4, Daniel, the Messenger of God. We have already done the vocabulary part of the chapter, so I had given you this assignment in which you had to find out the meanings of these words, and also you had to use these words in a sentence. So these 5 words were given to you. The words were kneeled. Okay. Kneeled means what? To sit on your knees. Okay. When you are sitting on your knees, जैसे जब आप नमाज पढ़ रहे होते हैं, then you are sitting on your knees, right? So that is called as kneeling. Okay. So for example, when I was reading the namaz, I was kneeled down. Okay. Kneel down means sitting on your knees. Next one is honor. Honor means what? To honor someone, to respect someone. Okay, honor means to respect someone. किसी की भी इज्जत करना, किसी की भी इज्जत जो है उसे कहते हैं honor. Next one, noble. Your school is noble, right? So you should know the meaning of the word. Noble means honest, kind. Okay, very जो दयावान हो, जो बहुत honest हो. Okay, that is called as noble. When someone is noble, that means the person is honest, the person is kind. Next one is welfare. Welfare मतलब किसी के भी भले के लिए कुछ काम करना, किसी का भला करना, that is called as welfare. For the benefit of someone else, that is called as welfare. For example, I distributed food for the welfare of poor people. मैंने खाना बांटा बुरे सॉरी पुअर लोगों के भले के लिए, गरीब लोगों के भले के लिए. Next one is to take charge. To take charge means to take responsibility. किसी भी चीज की responsibility लेना, किसी भी चीज का charge लेना. That means to take charge, to take the responsibility of something. किसी भी चीज को accept करना कि मैं ये काम करूंगा. Okay. For example, the commander of the fort, he took charge of the battle. Okay. कमांडर जो था फोर्ट का, उसने बैटल का चार्ज लिया, उसने बैटल लड़ने के लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ली. Okay, so that was all about this assignment. I hope you all submit me the assignment on Scholars ERP, because I am still seeing that some of you are still not submitting me the assignment. So that is not acceptable. I request all of you to submit this assignment to me on Scholars ERP. I'm waiting for all of your assignments. So submit me the assignment as soon as possible. So now we are starting this chapter. The chapter is Daniel, the Messenger of God. So when I say this title, Daniel, the Messenger of God, what are the things which get clear to you? That this story is about Daniel. Okay. Also, Daniel, the Messenger of God, means what? That Daniel, this person who is named as Daniel, he is the messenger of God. वो भगवान का भेजा हुआ बंदा है, वो भगवान का फरिश्ता है. Okay. So that is, we are clear from the title that the story is about a person named Daniel. Also, Daniel is a messenger of God. Daniel एक फरिश्ता है. Daniel एक बहुत अच्छा इंसान है. Okay, so Daniel is a messenger of God means what? वो एक फरिश्ता है. He has a very noble heart. He has a very kind heart, and he works with good motives. Okay, वो अच्छे इरादों से काम करता है. किसी का भी बुरा नहीं चाहता. अच्छे इरादों से काम करता है. जो अपना काम करता है वो ऑनेस्टी से करता है, ईमानदारी से करता है, किसी बुरे इरादे से काम नहीं करता है. He always works with good motives. वो अच्छे इरादों से काम करता है. Also, he proves his unshaken faith in God, and he believes in God totally. He totally believes in God. भगवान में पूरा पूरा विश्वास है उसका. Okay, वो कोई भी उसका जो faith है, जो विश्वास है भगवान में, उसको हिला नहीं सकता. His faith in God is unshaken. Unshaken means जिसे आप move ना कर सके, जिसे आप हिला ना सके. Okay, so he has his unshaken faith in God. He has this firm faith in God, and nobody can move that. Nobody can move his unshaken faith in God. And in this chapter, he also proves कि भगवान में जो उसकी faith है, जो भगवान के लिए उसकी ईमानदारी है, वो अपनी प्रूव करता है इस चैप्टर में. Now, how is he going to prove his faith in God? That we will see in the chapter. Okay, so here we will learn about Daniel and how he proves his unshaken faith in God. Because he is a person who works with good motives, अच्छे इरादों से काम करता है, अच्छे दिल से काम करता है, किसी का बुरा नहीं चाहता है. He has a noble heart, he has a kind heart. So, उसके साथ भी कुछ बुरा नहीं हो सकता. Those who are good, always good happens to them. Those who work with good motives, always good motives come back to them. जो अच्छे इरादों से काम करते हैं, उनके साथ अच्छा ही होता है. Okay, so let's start the chapter. Long ago, there lived in Babylon a nobleman named Daniel. Okay, so this is the story of Babylon. Okay, Babylon is a city, and in that city, who lived a nobleman named Daniel. So वहाँ पे Daniel रहता था Babylon में, and he was a very noble person, very kind person, very gentle person, बहुत अच्छा इंसान था. He was brought there as a slave from the land of Judah. And earlier, Daniel used to live in Judah, and from there, he was brought to Babylon as a slave. Okay, so Judah से वो as a slave means आपका काम करने वाला, slave means आपका जो काम करते हैं लोग उन्हें slave कहते हैं, आप जिन्हें काम करवाते हो, those are called as slaves. So from Judah, Daniel came to Babylon, and to Babylon he was brought as a slave. उसे slave की तरह लाया गया था, उसे बंदी बना के लाया गया था. Jerusalem was the capital of Judah. Okay, so now we have three cities here to remember. First one is Babylon. Babylon is where Daniel lived, and he was brought there. He was brought in Babylon as a slave from the land of Judah. और जुदा की कैपिटल क्या है? सॉरी, जेरूसलम किसकी कैपिटल है? जुदा की कैपिटल है. Okay, these three cities. He was wise, he was very intelligent, he was noble, he was very kind, and a true servant of God. और भगवान में उसका पूरा विश्वास था, भगवान को वो बहुत मानता था. Very soon, all the people began to honor him. So very soon, became his fans. लोग उसके fan हो गए, लोग उसको इज्जत देने लगे. क्यों? Because he was such a kind person and he believed in God. He was a true servant of God. भगवान को बहुत ज्यादा मानता था और लोगों से अच्छे से बिहेव करता था. So all people began to honor him. लोग उसे इज्जत देने लगे. He was pure by heart. उसका दिल एकदम साफ था, कुछ किसी के लिए गलत नहीं सोचता था, किसी के लिए बुरा नहीं सोचता था. He was pure by his heart. He believed in noble deeds. Noble deeds means what? Deeds means काम, ठीक है. So he believed in what? He believed in noble deeds. अच्छे कामों में विश्वास रखता था. He always worked for the welfare of humanity. और लोगों के भले के लिए. Welfare means भला. So he always worked for the welfare of humanity. लोगों के भले के लिए ही वो काम करता था. So what was so special about Daniel? That he was a wise, noble person, and he was very pure by his heart. He believed in noble deeds, and he always worked for the welfare of humanity. The king was so much impressed with his wisdom, purity, and sense of justice that he made Daniel the chief prince. Okay, so now the king of Babylon, he was so much impressed. वो उससे बहुत impress हो गया डैनियल से, उसकी wisdom से, उसकी intelligence से, उसकी purity से, उसका साफ दिल से, and his sense of justice और उसका ईमानदारी से, उसकी honesty से, fair तरीके से जो फैसला लेने का जो उसका तरीका था, उससे जो किंग जो था, he was very much impressed by that he made Daniel the chief prince. उसने what did the king do? He made Daniel the chief prince. उसने उसको chief prince, main राजकुमार बना दिया Daniel को बेबीलोन का. The king had many plans for him. Okay, so the king had so many plans for Daniel. He wanted to do so many things with Daniel. He wanted him to take charge of the kingdom. So what did the king want Daniel to do? He wanted to he wanted Daniel to take the charge of the kingdom. He wanted Daniel to take the responsibility of the kingdom. वो चाहता था कि Daniel ही पूरा kingdom संभाले, पूरा राज्य डैनियल संभाले. The king always wished to serve his subjects very well. So king always wished कि जो उसके लोग हैं वो अच्छे से उससे बिहेव करे, अच्छे से अच्छे लोग हो जो लोगों को संभाले, जो उसके राज्य को संभाले. He always wished that उसके जो लोग हों वो अच्छे से हों, जो संभालने वाले, the people who would take responsibility, he always wanted that they will be good people. Next one, let's see the questions. Where did Daniel live? Daniel lived in Babylon. Okay. What was the capital of Judah? You remember, right? What was the capital of Judah? Jerusalem was the capital of Judah. Why was king impressed with Daniel? The king was so much impressed with his wisdom, purity, and his sense of justice. Whom did the king wish to take charge of his kingdom? The king wanted to take the Daniel as the charge of the kingdom. He wanted Daniel to take the charge of the kingdom. The other princes naturally grew jealous of him. अब किंग के और भी बेटे थे, लेकिन किंग ने क्या किया? डैनियल को मेन प्रिंस, मेजर प्रिंस, चीफ प्रिंस अपॉइंट किया. सो ऑल द किड्स ऑफ द किंग, जो दूसरे जो प्रिंसेस थे, वो उससे जेलस हो गए कि हम हैं, फिर भी जो हमारे फादर हैं, जो किंग है, उन्होंने डैनियल को चीफ प्रिंस अपॉइंट किया है. सो द अदर प्रिंसेस दे गॉट जेलस ऑफ डैनियल. उससे जलन होने लगी उन्हें. They began to find faults in Daniel's way of ruling. So when you are jealous of someone, what do you start doing? You start picking mistakes in his work. Okay. So the other princes were also jealous of Daniel. So what did they do? They also start picking mistakes in his type of ruling, in his way of ruling. ये तो अच्छे से काम नहीं करता है, ये अच्छे से रूल नहीं करता है, ऐसे मिस्टेक्स निकालने लगे दूसरे प्रिंस डैनियल के काम में. But they failed to find any. वो निकालने की कोशिश की उन्होंने, but they couldn't find any mistakes because Daniel was so good in ruling. His ways were so pure and proper that the other princes could not find any mistake in his work. They could not find any mistake in his way of ruling. So they went to the king Darius. So the other princes, all the princes, they went to King Darius and said, Lord of the Lords, we all have come to you for a royal law. So सारे princes मिलके किंग डारियस के पास गए और उनको बोला, Lord of the Lords, when you talk to a king, आप सीधे नहीं बोल सकते ना, कि सीधे आप जो बोल रहे हैं आप वो नहीं बोल सकते. आप जैसे बोलते हो ना, महाराज की जय हो. So it is like the Lord of the Lords. That's how you speak in English. Lord of the Lords, we all have come to you for a royal law. हम सब जो प्रिंसेस हैं, हम आपके पास आए हैं एक रॉयल लॉ निकालने के लिए, कि आप एक रॉयल लॉ, एक नया लॉ बनाओ. The law is that if anyone asks for anything from God or man except you, he will be thrown into den of lions. Okay, so now what is this new rule? That this law is that if anyone asks for anything from God or man, अगर कोई भी इंसान भगवान से कुछ मांगेगा या किसी इंसान से कुछ मांगेगा, आपके सिवा किसी से भी कुछ मांगेगा, चाहे वो भगवान हो चाहे इंसान हो, then that person he will be thrown into den of lions. Den means गुफा. Okay, so इस पर्सन को क्या सजा दी जाएगी? He will be thrown, उसे फेंका जाएगा into den of lions. एक गुफा किसकी? जो लायन से भरी हुई, शेरों की जो गुफा होगी उसके अंदर फेंक दिया जाएगा. So now what was this new rule? That अगर कोई भी इंसान, if any person asks for anything from a person or God, अगर कोई भी इंसान किंग डारियस के अलावा किसी से भी कुछ मांगेगा तो उसको शेरों से भरी हुई गुफा में फेंक दिया जाएगा. So this was the new law and King Darius signed the law and King Darius ने हाँ भर दी कि okay, this rule is fine with me. So when Daniel found out that the law has been signed, he went into his room. So now this information, this news spread in the whole kingdom that King Darius has signed this law. And what does the law says? The law says that if you ask for anything from anyone except for King Darius, अगर आप King Darius के अलावा किसी से भी कुछ मांगोगे, then you will be thrown into a den of lions. तो आपको शेरों से भरी हुई गुफा में फेंक दिया जाएगा. Okay, so Daniel also he found out about this law. उसे भी पता चला इस law के बारे में, and he went to his into his room. So he went into his room. The windows of the room opened towards Jerusalem. So the windows of his room, so the window of his room, it opened towards Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the place, it was the capital of Judah, and जुदा से वो लाया गया था. ओके, सो जेरूसलम इज द प्लेस, उसकी जो खिड़की थी वो जेरूसलम की तरफ खुलती थी. The city of his own people and God. So Jerusalem was his own city. Although Daniel was living in Babylon, but his own place, his own city was Jerusalem. So it was the city, Jerusalem was the city of his own people, and Jerusalem was the city of God. So there, Daniel kneeled and prayed to God and thanked him. He just sat there. Daniel kneeled. Kneel means sitting on your knees. So Daniel sat on his knees and उसने भगवान से प्रार्थना करने लगा. And he thanked him for everything. And he started thanking God for everything. He did this fearlessly 3 times a day as he used to do before. So earlier, before this law was passed, then also Daniel also used to kneel 3 times and he used to pray 3 times a day to the God. And now this law has been passed, then also Daniel is praying to the God 3 times a day. He is not feared of anything. उसे किसी चीज का डर नहीं है कि भगवान से प्रार्थना करने में कैसा डरना. तो भगवान से वो पहले भी प्रार्थना कर रहा था और अब बाद में भी प्रार्थना कर रहा है, लॉ के इम्पोज होने के पहले भी और इम्पोज होने के बाद में भी. ही इज फियरलेस अबाउट दैट. उसे इस चीज का कोई डर नहीं है कि भगवान से, इफ यू आर प्रेइंग टू गॉड, व्हाट शुड यू बी फेयरफुल ऑफ. आपको किस चीज से डरना. What makes other princes jealous of Daniel? Why was other princes jealous of Daniel? Because the king had decided that he would give the charge of the kingdom to Daniel. So that's why other princes were jealous of him. King ने decide किया था कि वो उसके जो सारा राज्य है, उसका सारा जो responsibility है, charge है, वो Daniel को देगा. And that's why the other princes were jealous of Daniel. Why did they fail to find faults in the way of ruling? Why could the other princes, they could not find any fault in the way of ruling of Daniel? Why could not they find any rule? Because because Daniel used to rule in a very justice form, in a very pure form. So there was no fault in his way of ruling. And he used to work with clear motives. He used to work with honest motives. So there was no fault in his ruling. उसके रूलिंग में कोई फॉल्ट था ही नहीं, तो आप ढूंढोगे कैसे. Who signed the law? King Darius. He signed the law. What was done by Daniel 3 times a day after the royal law came into force? What did he do 3 times a day? He prayed to his God. He prayed to his God by kneeling down and by looking at the window which opened towards Jerusalem. So he prayed to his God 3 times a day when the law came into force. Okay, so when law was applied, what did he do? He used to pray to his God 3 times a day. Okay, so children, you have to complete this assignment. We will complete the next part of the chapter in the next session. And until then, you have to complete this assignment, these 3 questions, and then we will start the next part of the chapter. You have to complete these 3 questions and submit to me on Scholars ELP. I am still waiting for your assignments. Your assignments have not been completed. Some children are still not completed a single assignment. So that is not acceptable and you will be in the fault if you are not completing any assignments. And there are some hardworking children as well who submit each and every assignment. जो भी assignment मैं रोज देती हूँ वो रोज करके submit करते हैं. So such hardworking children, such hardworking students are also there. So you also work hard like them, and that will be beneficial for you only. Okay. So complete the assignment and submit to me on Scholars ERP. So that's all for today's lecture, and thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.